Eighth graders, it's Mrs. Thompson. We're going to start section 6.2 today, and this will be example 1. We're going to, throughout the whole section of 6.2, we're going to learn how to evaluate and simplify expressions containing rational exponents. So in case you were wondering what a rational exponent is, think in terms of the exponent becoming a fraction, okay? That's what we're going to focus in on today. We're used to seeing exponents that are whole numbers or negative numbers or zero, those are integers. We're going to actually see fraction exponents today, and I just want to take some time and teach you what that looks like and how do you do it in your calculator, etc. and so forth, okay? Let's start right here with parts of a radical, okay? Now the whole thing is a radical. Okay, the whole thing. There's a number that's in the crook of this elbow here, okay? And that number that's there is called the index, okay? And if it's the number 2, you don't typically see that. So if you happen to see a blank or an open spot in the crook of that elbow, like it just says, what's the square root of 25? That's how you would read this one that I just wrote here. It is understood that there's a 2 there. It's understood because it's square root, and square is the number 2, okay? We don't typically write that when we're doing square roots. We don't write the number 2, so if you happen to see a radical with no number indicated for the index, it is an understood 2. 100% of the time, okay? So this one actually has a number there, it's a 3. So we would call this the cube root, because cube in math indicates 3. Square means 2, cube means 3. Okay, and I'll write that off to the side here. Square means 2, cube root means 3. And then everything else after that, if it's another number, then it would be a 4th root, a 5th root, a 6th root, a 7th root, etc. and so forth. They don't have special names, just square and cube, okay? Now this big check mark sign right here, that is the radical symbol. That's the check mark sign that indicates please take the root of this. Could be a square root, a cube root, 4th root, whatever. And the number underneath the radical symbol is called the radicand, okay? So that's the parts of a radical. The 3 most important things that we're going to need today are the radicand, so that's the number underneath the radical. The index, that's going to be the number in the crook of the elbow of that root sign. And then the exponent, if there is one, outside of the radical. Now, if you look at this particular radical, come back up here to the top, you don't see an exponent out here or on the 27. So it's an understood 1. Okay? Now, what I did down here at the bottom of your page is I wrote several radicals here. I did the square root of 3, the cube root of 3, the 4th root of 3, 5th root of 3, 6th root of 3, 7th root of 3, and etc. and so on. Okay? I wanted to show you how radicals can be written another way, totally removing the radical altogether. If you see a radical, all that means is the number underneath is being raised to a fraction exponent. That is all a radical indicates. It's a fraction exponent. So let me just take an example. Let me take this very first one, the square root of 3. Okay? You're going to take your base of 3, that radicand, and it's going to come out from underneath the square root sign. Okay? Then the exponent on the 3, which is a 1, because we don't see an exponent on the 3, is your numerator, and the number in the crook of the elbow becomes your denominator. So the square root of 3 is really 3 to the 1/2. The cube root of 3 is really 3 to the 1/3. The 4th root of 3 is really 3 to the 1/4 power. Do you see the pattern here? I'm taking the base out. The exponent is my numerator. The index is my denominator. Radicand is my base. And then the exponent on the 3 is understood 1, and the 6 is my index, and that is my denominator. This becomes 3 to the 1/7, and this becomes 3 to the 1/8 power. Okay? So really, all I was trying to show you in this exercise here at the bottom is that the radical itself is really another way of writing a fraction exponent. That's really all it is. Now, the very bottom row, I just wanted to remind you, I think we talked about this a while back, but I want to refresh your memory. If the exponent on your number underneath the sign, the symbol here, is the same as your index, they cancel each other out, leaving you with 3. So 3 to the 3rd power cancels out with the cube root, leaving you with 3. 4th power cancels out with a 4th root, leaving you with 3. Whatever, if the exponent and the index are the same number, they cancel each other out. That's what happens. So every one of these is going to end up being just plain old 3 because the exponent and the index are the same number. And that root and that exponent cancel each other out. That is truth. And I just wanted to show you that shortcut. All right, let's flip to our next page because I wanted to show you example 1. Now that we understand a little bit more about, what this means, they've given you the base 125 and they said raise it to the 1/3 power. Now let me just kind of take you on an aside really quick. Really, 125 raised to the 1/3 power. Remember what I told you? The 125 is the radicand under that root sign. The 1 is the exponent on the 125. And the 3, the denominator, is the index underneath. Okay, so that's really all it is. It's a radical. It's a cube root. They're asking us to find the cube root of 125. That's really all that's going on here. Okay, so I'm gonna switch over to my camera now because I want you guys to see using a calculator what this looks like. So the first thing I need you to turn your calculator on. I left my fancy one at home, the one I always use, and I never let you guys use. I left that one at home. I'm here by myself on a teacher work day, so go me. And I just borrowed one out of the bucket. So a lot of you have the TI-83 pluses. The keying sequence is the same on the TI-84s as well. Okay? So let me just show you how to do both a cube root in your calculator and how to raise 125 to the 1/3 power. And you can see I've got it right here in your book. That's what we're looking at right here. Okay? Now, let's do the cube root really quick. I just want to show you what that looks like. If you go to your math button, okay, press that. And then do you see number 4? And just arrow down or press the number 4. And you see there's the cube root. There's a square root sign and there's a 3 beside it. That means we want to take the cube root. So press enter, and on your calculator screen you should see the cube root, and then in parentheses we're going to punch in our number 125, and I'm going to go ahead and put my other parentheses there. And so I'm asking the calculator to please tell me what the cube root of 125 is. Press enter, and it's exactly 5. Okay, so what it's asking me is what number times itself 3 times will give me 125? And 5 is the answer. 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. So yeah, that's the number that I multiplied to itself 3 times to get 125. So I'm reversing that process and asking, so what was the original number that I multiplied to itself 3 times to give me 125? That's what the cube root of 125 is asking. Okay? Now, secondly, let's plug in the fraction exponent. Let me show you what that looks like. So we're going to take the 125, that's our base. Okay? See it in your book, my book. We're going to write our base, type it in, and then I'm going to use, remember that roof sign? We're going to raise it, raise the roof, remember? Raise it And in parentheses, I'm going to type in the fraction 1/3 and just do 1 divided by 3. So that's the way that I type it into the calculator. I'm telling the calculator, here's my base 125, and I want you to raise it to this fraction, and I'm going to put that fraction in parentheses. That is the correct way to do it. And then press enter. Whoops, looky there. It worked out, didn't it? So 2 ways to write that thing. You can turn it back into its radical form. I do not recommend that. I just wanted to show you how to do it that way. Or just take the base and raise it to that exponent. Okay? So let me flip back to our notes here. And when we did our keying sequence, a lot of this you can just do right in your calculator. You're going to get exactly 5. Okay? So 9 raised to the 1/2, and I'm just going to continue to go back and forth showing you how you can put it into the calculator. You can put it in exactly like this into your calculator. That'll work. It'll get you the answer. Or you can turn it into its radical form, which is, the square root of 9. Well, everybody knows what the square root of 9 is. That's 3. Okay, either way, you're going to get 3 out of that. Okay, 16 raised to the 1/4 power. You can take 16, raise the root, put the fraction in parentheses. Or you can say, hey, I'm trying to find the 4th root of 16. In other words, what number times itself 4 times is going to give me 16? And you're right. If you thought 2, you're absolutely correct. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times that third 2 is 8. And 8 times that fourth 2 is 16. So yes, 2 is the answer. Okay? So hopefully I've done a good job in explaining the keying process. Now what I want to do is I want to take, I'm going to look at letter D here on our notes, and I want to go back to camera mode, and I want to show you how to put that back into the camera, or into your calculator. So let's clear out that information. I'm actually in letter B in your book, but it's I wrote it as letter D on your notes, so it doesn't matter. And this is how you'd write it all in one sentence, okay? You would do 64, there's your base, raise it, use your roof, and put parentheses, 1 divided by 6, okay? So there's the first part. Then hit your plus sign, and then we're going to do 25, raised, parentheses, to the 1/2 power, and then hit enter. And you see you got exactly 7, and that's what you should have gotten, okay? That's what it should be. 64 raised to the 1/6 is actually the number 2, and 25 raised to the 1/2 is really the square root of 25, which is 5, and 2 plus 5 is 7. And so that's why that works out the way that it does. Okay, I'm going to flip back to your notes now, and let's take a look. And we've got the 6th root of 64 plus the square root of 25. You may not know what the 6th root of 64 is right off the top of your head, but it is 2. You can plug that into your calculator as 64 raised to the 1/6, and 2 plus 5 is 7. So that's exactly right. I would put this in your calculator just like this, just like I was showing you. And you'll get 7 out of that. Either way, you'll get 7 out of that. Okay? And so you can do the same thing for E and the same thing for F and come up with those answers and see what you get. So I'm going to save these. These are going to be special ones. These are going to be bonuses for you. I want you to try those. I showed you how to key them in. I bet you know how to do it. You've already done it now. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you understood example 1.